weeks that followed the initial blessing, the atmosphere in the house shifted once more, this time into a more unsettling state. Clara's behavior, which had initially shown signs of improvement, began to deteriorate rapidly. Her parents, hopeful that the worst was behind them, soon found themselves grappling with a reality that was increasingly alarming. First, it was small things like a sudden outburst of laughter at inappropriate moments, vacant stare that lingered too long as if she were looking through them rather than at them. Clara began to withdraw from her friends and family, spending hours locked away in her room, where her once cheerful demeanor gave way to a heavy silence. The vibrant girl they once knew seemed to be fading, replaced by someone who was increasingly elusive and erratic. One evening, her parents heard a strange noise coming from Clara's room. It was a scratching sound, rhythmic and persistent, like nails scraping against wood. Concerned, they rushed to her door and knocked gently. "Clara, are you okay?" There was no response, just the continuous scratching. After exchanging worried glances, they opened the door. What they found was unsettling. Clara was on her hands and knees, her fingers clawing at the walls with an intensity that sent shivers down their spines. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, and filled with a mixture of fear and something darker, an intensity that suggested she was no longer fully present. "Clara," her mother cried, rushing to her side, but Clara merely turned her head slowly, a slight smile curving her lips that felt entirely wrong. "Help me," she whispered, her voice a distorted echo of her usual self. "She's here." The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, enveloping her parents in a shroud of dread. They tried to pull Clara away from the wall, but she resisted, her strength surprising them both. She seemed to be in a trance, caught between their world and something far more sinister. As days passed, the occurrences escalated. Clara began to roam the house at odd hours, often speaking in hushed tones or laughing at nothing. Her parents often found her standing in front of mirrors, staring intently at her reflection, whispering secrets that only she could hear. They would call her name and she would turn, her expression eerie and vacant, as if she were a stranger in her own body. One night, the family was awoken by a loud crash. They rushed to Clara's room, their hearts pounding in their chests. The sight that greeted them was surreal. Clara was not on the floor, but seemed to be suspended against the ceiling, her body contorted in an unnatural way. The shadows in the room danced around her, and for a moment, it felt as if the very air had thickened with malevolence. Her parents stood frozen, disbelief mingling with horror. When Clara noticed them, she let out a chilling laugh, a sound that was far removed from the laughter they once cherished. "Look, Mommy, I can fly." The words dripped with a mocking tone, an unsettling contrast to her innocent declaration. In a blink, she dropped to the floor with a thud, landing perfectly upright as though gravity had shifted for her alone. Over the following days, Clara's behavior became increasingly erratic. She would scratch at walls, leaving deep gouges that marred the surfaces of their once peaceful home. The family found strange symbols drawn in crayon on her bedroom walls, shapes that held no meaning but felt deeply unsettling. At times, Clara would sit in the corner of her room, her back turned to the door, whispering in a language that was foreign and incomprehensible. Her parents sought help from various sources, reaching out to therapists, doctors, and even spiritual advisors, but nothing seemed to stem the tide of Clara's condition. Each intervention met with a new layer of resistance from Clara, who would often respond with disdain or laughter, as if aware of her family's desperation but reveling in their helplessness. One day, while her parents were out, Clara's behavior took a turn for the worse. Neighbors reported hearing strange noises coming from their house. Loud thumps, manic laughter, and the unsettling sound of scratching that seemed to echo through the walls. It was as if the house itself had become a vessel for Clara's torment, reverberating with the chaos that had taken root within. When her parents returned home, they found Clara standing in the middle of the living room, her hair disheveled and her eyes wide with an intensity that sent chills down their spines. She was covered in dirt and scratches, her clothes torn as if she had been caught in a wild struggle. "I'm free now," she said, her voice layered with an unnatural quality, a blend of her own and something far more sinister.